Good morning everyone, happy Thursday. I can't believe how quickly this week is going, it's unbelievable. How are you all doing this morning? I hope you're doing well. As you hop on, if anyone's around today, I know people are working and are catching up on the replay, but that's absolutely fine. Please do comment as though you're watching live, and you can always kind of follow along later on when you've got some time to do it. So if you are hopping on, hopefully I'm live. It's always a little bit difficult to tell. If you are hopping on with me, then please do say good morning. It's always lovely to be able to speak to you, provided the comments are working today. I'm just going to scroll down. Sorry for looking away from you, and it's always a bit... let me see if I am live. Am I live? Just going to refresh, because sometimes that works. It takes a little bit of time, and there's always a bit of a delay. So let me know how you're feeling this morning. How are you doing? How are you getting on with your fur from yesterday? Have you had a go? Have you tried some of those techniques that we were using yesterday? I would love to know. And please do post your work in the group, because it's really fab to see how everyone's getting on, and it kind of creates a conversation about it, and then questions might pop up and things that you hadn't thought of that other people could possibly answer, as well as me. Obviously I'm here to help as much as I can. How are you all doing? Let me know. Good morning, Karen, live and clear, fantastic, thank you very much. Good morning, Lillian, how are you doing this morning? I hope you're well. I've seen some of your fur from yesterday, which was amazing. If you are on other areas of social media like Instagram and that kind of thing, then please do tag me in to your work if you want to post what you're doing, because people do like to see these kind of work in progress behind the scenes, to see what you're working on. Please do tag me in, Joy of Drawing or Samantha Clift Art, and then I'll be able to see your work, and I can share that in my Instagram as well. Good morning, Harry from Scotland. Looking in, have started laying down outline, brilliant. Hi Marilyn, hi, couldn't get in? Couldn't find me live, maybe? I couldn't find myself live for a while either. Oh, you'll find good, Lillian. I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully everyone's doing it okay today. It's nice and sunny again here in Bristol. Why do we talk about the weather so much? I just think it's just so nice when the sun shines. It just lifts your spirits a lot. I'm just double checking that I can see the comments, because it's not very nice. Couldn't get in. Couldn't get in what, Marilyn? Couldn't get in to the line art? There's been a little bit of confusion about the PDFs, I think. Looking forward to day 3. Should be having a go at these workshops later in the month to catch up. Still working on some clematis. Oh, how lovely. Flowers, which are now a few months in the making, must finish. That must be quite tricky, Ingrid, because they are quite intricate, aren't they? And they tend to have lots of colours going into the middle, obviously, to draw the bees in, which I think is just fascinating. I do love drawing botanicals. I do want to do more of that, definitely. Good morning, Elizabeth. How are you? Couldn't get in. Now see, oh, brilliant. Yeah, it does take a while, Marilyn, doesn't it? This technology. Yeah, I was saying about the confusion with the PDF. Had a few emails this morning to say that they couldn't find the line art and the reference photo, that PDF, the one that's specifically for this workshop. The way that the pipeline is set up is to have like an introduction page, then it sends you an email, and a lot of people weren't finding the group. So I put all of that information on, and then I put the little bonus information, which is the 5 ways to get your drawings to look more realistic. I think that wasn't the title. It's something like 5 ways to draw more realistically or something. That's a little bonus to this. It's something that I put together a couple of months ago, because it was the frequently asked questions that I get, and I just wanted it to be all in one place so that you could look into it, and hopefully it will help you you could refer to it when you're stuck on a drawing. So it was just a little bit of a bonus just to help you, and it does really go alongside this workshop as well, because it's what we're doing with our coloured pencils work, talking about values and textures and graininess and all of that kind of thing. So it was just something to add on, and then it took you to a thank you page where the PDF was there for the line art and everything for you to download. If you could download it to your computer, and then you've got it there to kind of print off and everything. I think what happened was that screen came up and then people lost it, and so they were logging on again, and then the PDFs were a little bit confusing. So I'm sorry about that. I'm always working to streamline as much as I can and make it a little bit more user friendly, but it's just kind of how it's set up. So I followed on the procedure, but it might not be the best way. They certainly are the clematis or clematis. On Gardener's World, which I love, they call them clematis, I think. And I planted a few this year and they've done really well, so I'm really chuffed with them. I just think they're beautiful. Good morning, Heather, lovely to see you. Good morning, Catherine. Hello everyone, and so how lovely. I love it when you say hello to each other. I do love this kind of sense of community, people coming together to do something that, this common interest that they love, that you can kind of share your passion, which you might not be able to share with other people in your family. They might not really understand how exciting it is to get a delivery of coloured pencils, or that you can never have enough coloured pencils, or you know, you've got 5 of one colour and it's just really exciting, or when you open a new tin and the smell and they're all there looking beautiful and you don't want to sharpen them. It's just lovely to have that sense of community, which I think is more important than ever at the moment. I think with what's going on out there in the big bad world, having something that we can focus on, which is really important, is more crucial now to our well-being, and we really do have to keep on top of our mental health and keep ourselves okay and on a level. It's quite easy to slip down and not look after ourselves and be kind to ourselves, and make something that we love doing, our hobby, you know, essential and non-negotiable in our life, because it's so easy to let it slip, and then when it does, things start kind of unraveling a little bit. I really hope you're all doing well. Do you have any questions from yesterday about the fur? Have you had a go yet? How did you find it if you have had a go, and are you going to be doing it later on? Do let me know. I really want to just make sure that everyone's kind of clear on the steps that we took, because it's not easy at all. This is something that you build up over time. It's not something that that kind of comes. It just comes with practice. Good morning, Leslie. Oh, lovely to see you with me for a short while. Play catch up later. Oh, lovely to see you, Leslie, for however long we have you. These are some of my lovely members from my membership. So I just wanted to say doors are now officially open, only until Sunday, when they will close again until the next workshop, and I don't know when that will be. I've put the link in the description if you wanted to have a look. If you've got any questions about it, then please do ask me, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. But I think we will kind of crack on with our nose. We're drawing a nose today. Some people find these quite tricky. I want to say did, but that's not true. I still find them tricky. Sometimes I leave them until the end, depending on, they're probably my least favourite bit. I love to draw the eyes. I love drawing fur, and the nose has always been a little bit of a tricky one, but I've found a lot of tips over the years that I hope that I can show you today that will help with that. I used some of your fur techniques yesterday on the flower. Hi, yes, short and long strokes as well as small circles work well. Brilliant. Yeah, you can adapt these techniques to work on anything, any botanicals, and you do find that with flowers especially, if you look really closely, there's lots of lines within it, so in a way they can look quite furry, and it's a great way to get texture. And then the small circles are good for blending. The other thing I found with petals and things, you know, when I did the lighter colour over the top of dark to soften the pencil strokes, that's great for the petal detail as well. It just spreads it out and smooths it out, because there are smooth textures and kind of liney textures within a petal. So having that combination of techniques works really well for other things as well. The background fur of the dog is out of focus. The background fur of the dog we're drawing, Harry? Yes, it is. And actually this nose is out of focus. So we will be kind of touching on that a little bit as well. Yeah, it is. Out of focus is quite interesting, especially if you're going to be taking on commissions, because you'll find that your photos are not what you'd probably, you know, enjoy or pick. If you have a look on Pixabay, I don't know if all of you know about Pixabay, it's a free reference photo website. You can buy the artist a coffee, which helps. Obviously they put up their photos for free, so it's nice to support them in that way. You can make a donation, but you can use the reference photos to work from, and they are lovely, brilliant, masses of photos to choose from, really quite clear and beautiful composition. So I definitely recommend Pixabay. There's another one called Splash, I think. Sorry, you have to go, Lillian. Unexpected visitors. Thanks. Check in later. Bye bye, Lillian. I hope to see you very, very soon. I think we're going to get started. I just want to talk about the competition quickly before we go. A little bit of housekeeping. To win a month free membership, please do like and love, or love, you know, little thumbs up or love heart on this video, because it pushes it out to the rest of the group. The more interaction there is within a video, the more Facebook shows it. So please do remember to do that. I would really appreciate it if you can. If you can comment, then it's great to push it out, but it's also nice to have a chat. And if you're going to be doing your work and posting it, please do tag Joy of Drawing, 3 for today, 2 for yesterday, 1 for the day before. And also there's a post on my business page, Samantha Clift Art. I would really appreciate if you could share that. I know some of you have already. I'm so thankful for that. Thank you so much, because I really do want more people to see it, to kind of spread the word about these workshops, because it's really nice to be able to help as many people as possible. Fingers crossed. So I think we'll get going. No further ado. So I will turn you round. Where is my turn around? There we go. Oh, I've put my light on. Oh, for goodness sake. Don't know if, oh, it might be quite good. Don't know about you, but these iPhone 11, hopefully you're back again. These iPhone 11s, the light comes on all of the time. Let me just see if I can turn it off. I don't think I can. Not while I'm live. How annoying. Hopefully there's not too many shadows on that now. I think it's gone off. Right. Hopefully you can see my nose now. Not my nose personally, but my little doggy nose. So you can see this is out of focus, which is interesting. So you've got two choices here when something's out of focus. When you're looking at your composition, what do you want to be the focal point? Do you want it to be the eyes? Do you want it to be the kind of face? Do you want the background to blur in so that the face kind of pulls forward? With this drawing, I think I've made the conscious decision to make the eyes and this section the focal point, and then the nose, I'm not going to try and add lots of detail that isn't there. I'm just going to draw what I can see. And I think sometimes if you can detach your thinking, your kind of conscious brain, away from what you are actually drawing, if that makes sense. So sometimes we can get caught up and think, oh gosh, how am I going to tackle this? I don't know how to draw this, I don't know, paw or curl or hair or nose in this instance. And then we can kind of get bombarded by our thoughts, and they take over, and we end up going wrong. Whereas if you just look at for what it is, and you observe it in a way that it's just shapes and colours and lines, and take the pressure off yourself and just enjoy drawing what you see as opposed to what you think you might see, then we don't need to add too much detail in for it actually to look okay. I've just seen my outlines, they're just too dark, and I don't want this line, especially that one in the middle, to really show through. The nostrils are okay because they're going to be dark anyway, so I'm just going to take away that midline just so that I can barely see it, but it's there. I really don't want it to show up. Now this nose, I've decided, I don't know about you, but I'm going to use a warm grey as the base. I'm going to go in all over the nose, and this is when it's quite fun, and add a base layer with big ovals. And you can do this with anything, just adding that base layer down. Like I said, the reason that I put a base layer down, you don't have to. Of course, you don't have to do any of the things that I'm telling you. But the reason I do it is, for one, it gets you going, because sometimes the hardest part is putting pencil to paper. You're not committing to too much because you're using a light colour and you can easily lift it back up again. So one, it gets you started. Another reason is that it starts to fill up the troughs of the paper and starts to get rid of the graininess a little bit. It's also nice to lay pencil down on top of pencil. So just putting that all over, even in the darkest parts, because we're going to be building up. And the other reason is layers is always really great for building up depth. I think if we go straight in with the dark colours, although sometimes it's good to map out the darkest areas, which I tend to do around the eye, and I might do around the nostril here, I find that building up slowly works really well to create depth. And this is going to be interesting with the nostrils especially, because there's a curve that goes in. It's not just a light then to dark and a hole. You want it to look like it's curving into it. So I'm going to work up through the colours. This time I'm using the warm grey, so going into warm grey 2. I'm going to start adding this to not all over, but the areas that are starting to be darker. So I'm using small circles on this. And although the nose is textured, it's not furry like we were using yesterday. So I'm putting this down in the bottom section of the nose, and then you'll see how by gradually building up through the colours, you'll be able to get a nice smooth transition. So we can put a couple of layers on. I'm not pressing any harder, I'm just going over the same area a couple of times, working my way up the nose here. And then just being a little bit mindful of some lighter sections just under the dark part of the nostril, that hole. There's usually some light areas within, just under the nostril. So at the moment, you probably won't be able to see much difference between those two parts. You might be able to see a little bit darker here, but that might be because my line is still there. So I'm just going around the edge, building up slowly, and then I'm going to move on to my warm grey 3. I'm just looking at my reference photo to see where these colours are. At the moment, I can still see where my nostrils are, which is good. You might find that as you start building up through the colours, your initial sketch starts to fade and you aren't able to see as easily where your lines are, in which case it might be a good idea to put in the darkest areas, or just map them in with not the black, but a dark colour. Maybe some of the warm greys, or my beloved dark sepia. I love that colour. Is it a bit boring that my favourite coloured pencil is dark sepia? I'm just going all the way down to the edge of the nostril, because this part that I've mapped in is not the nostril actually, that's the highlight below the nostril. So I haven't actually put in where the nostrils are. I want to start building those up. And this is what I was talking about with a curve going in. And because this nose is quite out of focus, we're not worrying too much about detail. We have a choice of how much we put in. I'm not trying to add the detail back in, because I think sometimes that can kind of fight against your final composition. So Harry, with the blurry fur in the background, I would just leave it as a series of shapes and colours and not try and get any detail in at all. I would just build it up like I am now and really smooth away the pencil strokes with base layers in between. And by base layers, I mean just the colour that you used for the base layer, as in a lighter colour. So I'm going over the whole of the bottom section of this nose. Small circles, I'm still taking my time, I'm not rushing it. It'd be really easy now to just jump straight in with a really dark colour and start building it up, but there's lighter areas within the darker areas as well. It's not just one colour. And so I don't want to rush in with the darker colours because one, I might go wrong, and two, it can create a little bit of a flat look. Just thinking about little touches of detail. There's a line that goes up into the top there. There's a line around the outer edge of the nose. We need to make sure that this nose doesn't look stuck on in any way. So doing these scribbly circles is a nice transition between the fur and the nose. We don't want it to look like it's just a rubber nose stuck on to the drawing. Just blurring the edges of the nose with this warm grey 3. Just circling all the way around, and we get a nice even coverage then. And if we want it to be a little bit darker, we just go over the same area a couple of times. If you're naturally heavy-handed, just moving your hand down the pencil this way, and it will just lessen the pressure that you're putting on. I'm definitely naturally heavy-handed, and that's something I've had to be mindful of, because when I slow down and when I start to really take my time and really look at what I'm drawing, it's definitely much more enjoyable. There's some areas at the top which have light parts, so I'm going to just map those in with this warm grey 3. Again, I'm not committing to a really dark colour, so it's going to be easy to lift back up again. Is anyone drawing along with me today? Let me know. Or are you going to wait until later? And if you are drawing along with me, am I going too fast? Would you like me to slow down? Would you like me to explain any parts more? Just let me know. I'm just adding a little bit of this warm grey, building it up. Is it starting to look a little bit like your drawing, Karen? Oh, it's always nice to draw with people. I hope it's going okay. I hope you are enjoying it. Just outlining this little nose. You're drawing, Jennifer. Lovely. It's so nice to do things together. I think as humans, we do crave a sense of belonging, don't we? It's really important, and I think you don't realise how important it is and the good feelings that you get from it until you do it. You don't appreciate it as much until you actually do. Just still building up. You can see I've just put that little line down there. I'm just using a scribbly line. I'm not kind of drawing and pressing hard. I'm just using a scribbly line to get like a ghost or an outline of it. It's just starting to emerge from the paper, but I'm not really committing to anything too dark. Right, I'm going to work up now to my warm grey 4, and I'm going to build on the areas around the nostrils, because these are going to get really dark. I think I've sharpened my pencil a little bit too much. I was a bit eager this morning and I got them all sharpened ready, forgetting that actually you don't really need them. So I'm using the side of my pencil now to get soft lines. If I went straight in, I'd get quite harsh lines. I just want to blend that nostril, even though it's really dark in here, I want to blend it up into the darkest parts of the nose. So coming up around here, that line in the middle, making sure I don't lose that. there's quite a lot of colours going on in this nose actually. And again, it's up to you how many colours, what colours you choose. It's all very subjective to you. I mean, people see colours differently. I tend to try to either use complementary colours, and it's really quite a good idea to get yourself a colour wheel. Here's mine. It's just really good to, you can see here, we talk about complementary and split complementary. If you use the complementary colours, which are opposites on the colour wheel, you get a really lovely natural shadow. So I either use the complementary colours to make something pop out, or I will use a colour that I've found or that I've used somewhere else in the drawing. So for me, in this nose, I can see quite a lot of pinks and blues up here. So I probably will bring in a little bit of blue, but I might bring in the orange colours that we've used up into the eyebrows just to tie it all in together. It's a little bit like having an accent colour in your living room. You know, you might have a neutral sofa and carpet, but just having these little pops of colour that you see dotted around, you see interior designers doing it, it just pulls everything together nicely. Does that make sense? So I think if you find a colour that's up on a top part of the drawing and then you see it a little bit lower down, it's just, it draws the eye in. Just darkening up the nostrils, but I'm not going too dark. As you can see, I'm taking my time to build up. There's a light part there that I need to make sure I leave out, and then I'm going to just work to add a little bit here. The nose comes out a little bit, like a little square area, and then there's a really dark line here, so I'm just going to add that. So I hope I'm kind of showing you that by taking your time and not rushing it, it's a much more enjoyable process, and you tend to see, because you're looking at your reference photo all of the time, it's amazing how much more you see when you slow down. I suppose it's a bit like going for a walk in nature. If you rushed through and didn't look around, you'd miss everything. It's the same with art, you know, if you really take your time to look at what you're drawing and spend much more time looking at your reference photo than you do your own piece, you notice so much more, and that kind of expands your brain, and it makes you then, with the next drawing you do, you're going to automatically, with muscle memory and your amazing brain that tends to love patterns and refer back to that pattern of behaviour, it's going to make you look and notice things a lot more than you did before. What I like to do sometimes is draw something, have that reference photo, and then just keep it on your computer, keep it there so that you can come back to that same reference photo in 6 months, a year's time, and just see how much you've changed, what you've noticed, what things you wonder why you didn't notice it before. It's just really lovely exercise to be able to watch your progress. So I think we can quite easily get caught up with comparing ourselves to other artists, but what we don't know is their full story. We don't know how long they've been drawing, we don't know how many hours a day they practice. They generally, as we all do on social media, just show their best work. They don't show that piece that got thrown in the bin. So it's not true, you know, it's not a real representation of their actual real life. So just compare yourself to yourself and see how far you've come. It gives you a real boost, and then that makes you keep going. Can you see how it's starting to emerge really slowly? I'm not trying to rush the process, I'm just taking my time, and I'm just going to put little details in that come down through this top part, little lines and things, again really sketchy. What sort of number Faber-Castell did you start? What sort of number? As in, how many? Well, I made a bit of a boo-boo and I bought the wrong pencils to begin with. I bought water soluble and they were Caran d'Ache. So they were my first ever pencils I bought, because I didn't really know what I was doing. And there weren't as many pencil artists out there then. But my first set of polychromos, once I started hearing about them, my husband bought me a set of 36 for my birthday. And they lasted me a long time. They obviously have a nice selection in there, and that is definitely enough to get started with. And it's affordable. I think it's probably about 30 quid, which is quite reasonable, I think, because they are artist quality. They're professional pencils. They're light fast. They're well made. They don't break when you drop them, which is important for me. So 36 is a good number to start with, and then you might find that you're just missing a few colours. I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed and think that you need to buy all of these pencils that keep being advertised. It's like, what do they call it? Is it magpie syndrome? Where you see the next shiny thing and you want it. I mean, believe me, I do get that, but I do feel like it can be a little bit overwhelming. You think, oh, if I have this pencil, then I might be able to do this with it. And actually, I think really getting used to one set of pencils, whatever they are, whether they're Arteza, they're pretty good. They're a good starting pencil, not too expensive. What's the other ones that are really popular? Prismacolor. They're really good starting pencil. Actually, not just starting, people just love them, but they're not particularly light fast, I don't think. And for someone like me, I heard somebody say that the casements break quite easily when you sharpen them. And for someone who's really clumsy and tends to drop my pencils a lot, I don't think they'd last 5 minutes with me. But I've heard the pigment's fantastic. They're lovely to use. They're really soft. So that's a good starting one as well. And then I think build up your collection slowly and just start to see what you need a little bit more of. Don't be tempted to buy all of them. Get to know your colours, get to know your pencils, get to know what they can do and practice with them. And take the pressure off it being a masterpiece every time. Just enjoy learning with them and seeing what they can do. Every time I've been using them for nearly 6 years now, and I find something new with every piece that I draw. I love the fact that you can just keep learning. Can you see how that's starting to build up? Thank you for relaxing half an hour. Oh yeah, I hope to see you in the members group. Yes, Leslie, we've got group hypnotherapy tonight. If you are around in the membership. One of the best. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. Lovely member, Leslie. I'm so glad. I've met some wonderful, wonderful people in my membership and in this beautiful group, artist community. It's just been such a blessing to have a group of like-minded people. It's been lovely, and everyone is so great. And I think, the more great people that are in the group, the more are drawn to it, the great people. I've got 48 triangle Arteza pencils and foam barrel. 40. Yeah, I think they're really pretty good. I don't think they're light fast in the same way that polychromos are. Sorry, I've moved on to warm grey 5. So I'm working up through the colours. I don't think they're as light fast as the Caran d'Ache Luminance or the polychromos, but if you're not selling your work, I think I'll just stick with Arteza. I think they're great. I think they're really great. I love the names of the colours, although they're very different to the polychromos. They make you hungry. They've got some really gorgeous names like Blueberry and Cookie, and I think they're brilliant, Katrin. I think they're brilliant. So stick with those. Don't feel like you need to buy everything. I would hate it if people, you know, started to spend loads of money on pencils that just sit in a drawer. I'm just building up again. I'm just now looking. Now we're getting to that point where we need to think about where the darkest parts are. I'm finding this really relaxing. For somebody that didn't like drawing noses, slowing down has been the best thing. I know it sounds so simple and a bit silly, and why didn't I do it before? But I think, I don't know about you, but artists tend to be pretty self-critical, pretty hard on ourselves, perfectionists. The list goes on. And I think the pressure that you put on yourself, and then it almost like, it kind of starts off this, want to do it quicker, and I want to move on, and then it, I don't know if it's the pace of life or whatever, but I tend to be, I tend to put pressure on myself to go faster and faster and faster and be better, quicker. You want everything now, and I think technology, you know, everything is so instant. So to begin with, I started this hobby to slow myself down, and then I put too much pressure on myself, and it started to become a little bit frustrating and a little bit flattening when you look at other artists and they were so much better than you. Whatever better means, I don't know if I should really say that. And then this year, especially with COVID and all of the horrible things that are happening, it's almost like I had a bit of a light bulb moment and thought to myself, oh my goodness, I've forgotten why I did this to begin with. I've forgotten the reason that I draw. And it's to slow my brain down, and I've made a conscious effort, and it's something you have to kind of practice, because you get stuck into a pattern of behaviour that's not necessarily good for you, but you don't really realise whilst you're in it, if that makes sense. So I've trained myself to slow down again, and I've just loved it so much more. The pressure's gone, you know, I'm experimenting a little bit more, I'm excited for the next project, and after 6 years of something, you know, you wonder if the novelty will wear off. But I've ignited my passion again. I think the memberships had a lot to do with it, and this group as well, because you're meeting people that keep you inspired and get excited about, you know, a new paper they've tried and it fits them perfectly, or, you know, all of these things. And I think having that buzz is just such a boost for everything else. Right, I'm adding a little bit more detail to the nostrils now. You see I'm getting darker, but hopefully you're seeing that I've gone from light, so this is a layer of warm grey, and then we've built up slowly and we're getting darker and darker and darker, but I haven't thought about going really dark yet. And that's because I want the outer edge of the nostril to be really dark, to be a kind of a gradual darkness, so that when we put the really dark black, which it is, in, it will look like it's curving into the nostril, not just a hole or flat or just stuck on like a little. And that's what it used to look like when I used to draw noses, and it was really frustrating. They just didn't look right, and I couldn't work out why. And that is why, because you need that transition between the light and the dark. You need the midtones in there in order for it to look curved and shapely. Now we've put these darker parts in, this looks really light, doesn't it? Because it's all relative to what's around it. And this part's really light, and actually it's quite dark, but I want it to show up because it's lighter than this part. I'm just thinking about the outline of the nose as well, because that's normally the darkest part, especially at the bottom. So there are some areas to look out for noses, especially a dog's nose. A cat's nose is a little bit different. They tend to have little different shapes. But a dog's nose, we've got obviously the two nostrils with the highlights underneath. We've got this line through the middle. I'm just going to scribble in a little bit more to darken it up. And then we've usually got a light part up here, and then we've got some darker parts around the edge. Now, when you've got a really good detailed nose, a really great reference photo that's got, you can see all of those little bumps, you know, those little circles that you see in a dog's nose. I'm just going to bring that out a little bit. Then the circle technique that we're doing here is really great for that, because you start to build up the texture. I'm smoothing mine out a little bit because we can see a bumpy texture, but we can't see the individual circles. It also depends on how big your drawing is. The bigger your drawing, the more detail you're going to be able to fit in. So I'm just working on the little bits of detail above now. I'm just scribbling in, adding in, and the scribbly, the kind of back and forth, up and down, is just an add-on to the circles, to the ovals, because you're trying to create a little bit more texture. So adding a little bit more darkness up here to really make that stand out. Another thing to really watch when you're drawing dogs' noses is, and I did this recently with a commission, the dog's nose, the nostrils especially, need to line up with the dog's eyes. So imagine the nostrils about there. Once we draw them in, they need to be the same angle as the nose. Now, I had a reference photo recently, a commission, and they didn't line up. And that is because, obviously, I don't know what the dog was doing, sniffing or something, or it was, I don't know, moving its nose in a weird way. It looked fine on a photo, but once you tried to do it as a drawing, it looked really weird. So that's a good way of checking that you've got everything looking okay. Even if the nose is on the wonk in your reference photo, line it up with your eyes and it will look much better. It will look really weird as a drawing. Mine did, and I had to rearrange the nostrils. So now I'm going to make sure I look out for that. Just adding a little bit more of this warm grey 5 just around the edges. I want this bit to be a curve in as well, so that needs to be a smooth transition between light and dark. And we are getting to the fun part where it's going to start popping out. At the moment, it's just like a light, blurry, looks like a dog's nose, but not massively. I'm going to just go down to the... I'm going to drop it. See, I told you, I'm really clumsy. I need pencils that are robust, that don't mind being dropped on the floor. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to the areas that have a bit more darkness, because we're going to go really dark in a second into the nostrils, and hopefully you're going to see it start popping and coming to life. So using those circles, so getting that kind of texture in that top part. I'm just going to use this lighter colour just to soften the pencil strokes a little bit. And just tidying up the edges a little bit, just using different colours. There needs to be a bit more pencil here. That just looks like a weird line that I've put in, and then it just comes up here. So just using this warm grey 3 just to soften my initial sketch and join that shine up to the rest of the nose. So it's all starting to look like it's part of one thing. I'm just going to have a sip of water. And then I talked about how we don't want it to look stuck on, so you need to think about how it's connected. And whilst you've got the pencils in your hand, it might be worth just adding a little bit to the next part so that the change from the fur to the nose kind of makes sense in a way. So you can see, if I wasn't kind of talking constantly, you can see how you could lose yourself for an hour or two quite easily and get into flow, which is when you're in that state of kind of the hours just go by and you don't know where the time's gone. And it's important, that state, for you to give your brain a little bit of a chance to rest, to slow down. Have a bit of space, to not be consumed with worrying or thinking. You're just concentrating on what you're doing. And I think that's just crucial to feeling all right, to having a bit of balance in life, really. I'm going to move up to the warm grey 6 now. And I'm going to start to really darken up through the nostrils. Just be careful that you don't go into some of the lines that you've created and almost get caught up in your own little line work. Keep looking back to the reference photo and seeing where these nostrils actually are. I'm going in with this colour, but I know that I'm going to have to go a little bit darker. These pencils, as I said, I sharpened them this morning. It's quite a nice idea as we go along and further up, more detail, that they are a little bit sharper because we want the lines to be a little bit crisper, especially on the edges. And I think that's where the graininess that some people talk about comes in, because the lines are just a little bit too thick and they look a little bit sketchy, and that's probably because your pencils aren't as sharp as they need to be for that part that you're working on. Can you see now that we've put these darker areas in this 6? These are looking really light, whereas before I'm thinking, you know, it'd be quite easy to not go that dark. So I'm definitely one of those people that I think the darker you go, if you can be brave and go really dark into the dark sections, it's going to make your drawings so much better, and they're going to pop, and you're going to see them looking more 3D and having a lot more shape and form. And so be brave. And I think that's when it comes down to just not putting too much pressure on, not expecting every piece you do to be perfect or amazing, because it's just not possible. It just won't be. Some pieces work and they're a joy from start to finish, and some pieces are a little bit of a struggle. It's got to be said. I'm just darkening up a little bit. I'm not going in with the black yet. I'm still adding to all of the areas that are dark, even around that lightest part, that shine there. There's a lighter part underneath. We want to add that in as well. Don't want to just get lost in having a blob of darkness. It'd be quite easy to think that the bottom part of the nose is just dark and the top part is just light. But there are lots of variations within it. So still using that circular technique to get a really nice smooth finish. Thinking about there's usually a little bump at the bottom of the nose, so I'm just tidying that up a little bit. This part of the nostril, there's quite a square edge. So again, having a sharp pencil, you can tidy that up. Because it sticks out a little bit more than the nostril below it. Can you see that in the reference photo? I don't know if anyone's looking at the reference photo at the moment. And I'm going to go on to the other nostril, and then I'm going to see if they line up properly. So by adding all of that dark around the nostril, this should, fingers crossed, look like, once we've added the black as well, that it's kind of going inside the animal, inside the nose, not just a black blob, because it can look quite flat. So using the circles, I'm not pressing very hard at all, I'm just building up slowly. I'm resting my elbow on the desk, so I'm not putting pressure through my neck. That's another reason why people kind of stop, is that they don't get into a comfortable position, or it puts a lot of pressure through your wrists or your shoulders. So just making sure that you're comfortable. I find that drawing upright, like I am now, I've got a drawing board, is so much better for your neck and shoulders instead of leaning over. And the other thing I found is if I lean over, like if I'm doing kind of watercolours or water pencils, which you need to have it flat because otherwise it will run, the perspective is all different because you're looking at it from the bottom of the picture as opposed to straight onto it. Building up that nostril. Can you see how it's starting to look like it's curving in? Does that make sense? Am I explaining it properly? So back to the cold grey 3. I'm just going to add a little bit more to the bottom of that nostril so it blends into that shine. Same with this one. Just looking for those smooth transitions, a little bit of grey at the bottom of that shine, letting it all blend in. We need to definitely add a little bit more detail up here. Within a shine, there's usually some darker parts, some lighter parts, there's some lines. You can use that kind of fur technique that we talked about, those little lines. And those little lines that are going to add to the curve. If you put these lines in that kind of draw the eye, it's going to look curved even more. It's going to be like a kind of a shell, having these lines that go in. Don't make them too dark though. Just working with the cold grey 4, the warm grey 4 again. Just adding a little bit more depth to this part. And darkening up here, and I think we're going to have to go, next stage is Payne's grey and then black. There's a light part within the dark part here, just mapping that in as I've spotted it, didn't spot that before. So this is why it's good to just take your time. And up here needs to be an awful lot darker than it is. Now we've got the darker part in, I'm just going to use those circles to just come up and add a little bit more depth to the shadow parts, or the darkest parts. But you're not really able to do that. You're not able to work out where that is until you've got other parts in. So it's not a process that you can kind of rush, really. I just want a lovely transition between the light and the dark. So some of the darker pencil goes up into the highlight as well. And then we're going to move on. And can you see how the cold grey, I keep saying cold, the warm grey 6 is now starting to disappear because we're adding dark next to it. So this is the part I love because it's starting to take form, but it's not popping out, and that's when the really dark colours really make it stand out. And I like to do that last, so it kind of emerges. It's like magic. So just adding that here, coming up into this part, little lines as well. There's definitely darker parts above the nose that will help to give it kind of shape. Using little squiggly lines or even little dashes because we are merging into the fur at the top there. Just thinking about this line, making sure it's in the right place. Again, if that's wrong, it can throw everything off a little bit. Darkening up here. And darkening up around the shine. Okay, right, so we've got quite a nice colour now. It's looking a little bit different to the shine of the rest of the fur. We're going to go, I think I'm just going to go straight in with the black into the darkest part. And we'll just see how that starts to pop a little bit. Right, here we go. I've sharpened my black and I actually don't want it that sharp, but it's a bit late now. So resting my elbow again, just going in. So not going right the way down to the line. We want to go just above that because we want, like I said, that transition between the two areas. Same with up here. We don't want to go put the black in the whole of that dark area. We just want it in the centre, and that's what's going to make it look like it's going inside the dog's nose. So I'm starting with the black just in the centre. I'm not pressing hard. I'm still using a light hand and small circles and just building it up slowly. There tends to be a few crisper edges, like coming up here. So I'm just going to add those in. You can always blur those with a lighter colour. So just thinking about how far out this nostril goes. There's a line there. I want it to look like it's going in. How's everyone doing? Am I going too fast, or hopefully I'm not? So I'm certainly feeling quite relaxed and enjoying it. So once we've got the basic outline of the nose and where everything is in the dark part, then we can go over a few times to just darken up. So I certainly don't want to press very hard, but we do want the inside of the nostril to be as dark as it needs to be. So these are where the values come in. Making sure your shadows are as dark as they need to be, and that's what's going to give it form and shape and make it pop a little bit more. So we can darken up around it in a second. Just need to come down. So these little millimeters make all the difference. I'm going to zoom in and show you a little bit closer so that you can see the detail. You do want kind of crisp edges in some places, like towards here, where that kind of curves round. And we are going to add a little bit more of darker colours around. So you can see that's looking quite dark now, but can you see how that transition from, especially this part, is looking like it's going in? It's not, we are going to add a little bit of darkness around. I'm just going to get the other nostril in so that it makes sense. Then we can check to see if our nostrils are lined up properly. Create a curve, and then we want to darken the outline a little bit more because it's not as dark as it needs to be. Going all the way up here. This nostril's a little bit like a weird kind of, what are they called? Parallelogram? Do you remember that from school? Certain words that you just remember. Parallelogram. God knows where that's come from. So just adding a little bit up here. There's these defined lines with the black. Also down here in the nose is, I don't think there's any other colour for it really. You can still use a soft hand, you can use circles, just to build up that depth of colour at the bottom. Coming round, crisp shape, crisp line at the bottom. And then it kind of fades into a lighter colour, which we can add a little bit more of the greys in. Might even go in with the cold greys as well. So I want to darken this whole thing. We're probably going to go over the top with some more colours. And I want to darken this side as well. Just be a little bit mindful about where the darkest parts are. We don't want to go over the whole area in the same pressure. This part's quite dark, there's a line that goes up. Very, very soft. And because I've been using these circles, which is kind of what you can do with any blurry area, is it just gives a nice soft look. Just putting those lines in. So putting the darkest parts in, we're mapping all of that in, and then we can go in with the darkest midtones again. So it's all kind of a process of adjustment. You can't tell how dark you need to go until you put the lighter parts and the midtones in. Is that making sense? I'm just kind of checking to see if there are any, I love the names of the artists. Chocolate brown, pumpkin orange, perfect, yeah. Makes you hungry though, doesn't it? I love the names. And also I found with the Arteza is that you don't get confused because they are using completely different names to any of the other pencils, well, most of the names anyway. Whereas if you're using a combination of Caran d'Ache and Polychromos, for example, their colour names are very similar, but the pencil colour can be quite different, although it's obviously got the the tones of that colour, they can be quite a different kettle of fish. So I'm just working up into the darker parts up here. I'm going to add a little bit more up here, and then I'm going to go in with the mid-tones again, just to pull it all together. That needs to be a little bit more rounded, so you can always change the shape of your nose at this stage. Have a look at the nostrils. Do they line up with the eyes? Yes, they do. This nostril needs to be a little bit bigger, but I don't want to go in with the black and do that. I'm going to go in with the warm grey 6 and do that, just to stretch that nostril out a little bit. So it comes up a lot higher. So going in with the small circles again and just adding a lighter colour. Just thinking about the shape of it. It's kind of like a leaf shape. This one's more square, but they're all going to be slightly different. Want to add a little bit more to that edge there so it curves round. So I'm not adding any more pressure, I'm just going over the same area a couple of times, just bringing that nostril up. Making it a little bit bigger. So it's just the centre that has the black. I hope the camera's picking it up. I'll zoom in a moment and hopefully you'll be able to see a little bit more. This one comes up a lot more as well. And then it comes out to the side. It sounds like the rain's coming, or it's come, darkening up this. So this is the darker mid-tones I was talking about. Starting to pull it all together now. Adding the dark where it needs to be. Darkness here as well. And as you've got into the drawing, you get a little bit more confidence about where to put your colours. You start to kind of get into the drawing a little bit. The beginning's always a bit strange. That line, making sure that line's in. I want to add some darkness here. This part is a lot darker than I've got it now, but I want to make sure that it's different to this part, which is a lot darker. So just adding a layer, glazing over the top. You're not losing the kind of light colours you put in underneath, but then you can darken up a little bit more around it, because we do want the bottom of the nose to be darker than the top in general, so that when you squint your eyes, which is a good way to test that your values are kind of right. If you squint your eyes and see whether it's as dark as it needs to be, you need to add a little bit down here. We need to add some detail in with those lines, nice and carefully. These lines as well. Just adding a little bit to the edge of that nostril. I'm going to add a little bit more up here with the cold grey 6, the warm grey 6. Just in the darkest parts that I can see, following those patterns along. I'm not having to spend as much time on them now because I've already put it in. I'm just adding to it. I'm just doing these little final touches just to make sure that everything is fitting. There's a little detail there that you can put in. There's detail above the nose. There's a dark part here that's definitely darker than I've got it, so I might need to go in with the black and just add a little bit of darkness in there. The light part, dark part here. Another good thing to use whilst you are working on noses to get a really nice shine is that you can use your kneadable just to lift up certain areas. So if you've put a little bit too much pencil down, or if you want to add a bit of a detail, you can use your kneadable eraser. It just lifts up a little bit and it gives a really beautiful muted shine. So that's a really good thing to use on noses. You can also use the slice tool to add a little bit of detail in here and there. I'm just going to go in with the warm grey 3 just to fill in the gaps here, because it's a lot lighter than I want it to be, a lot lighter than the reference photo. So these are the lighter mid-tones that we're going to be putting in, again, to balance everything. It's not as light as these parts up here, but at the moment they are looking like that. And also they need to be darker than the lightest parts, which is just under the nose. As you can see how that pulls it in together and it softens the pencil strokes. Filling in any gaps, smoothing the pencil, and then we're probably going to have to go in a little bit darker to finish. Right, I'm going to go in with the black again, and I'm really going to darken up some of the areas. Don't forget that line again. Just going back in, hardly taking any pencil now because you've already got it there. You're just going over the same areas, making sure that you've got that balance of values. This part down here needs to be darker and crisp at the bottom. That part there is a lot darker. There's a few little details in there that just pulls it in. So I'm just darkening, there's a little line there. That bottom section. So just going over it a couple more times just to add that darkness in. Same this side, it's just mainly along the bottom, just to crispen up that line. Come round to the nostril, there's a line there. Just pulling those two together. And then glazing over the top of this lighter section. And that part goes up there as well. Darkening up the nostrils. Darkening up this outline here. Some little details. Same with this side. How are you finding it? How are you getting on? Let me know. And also I'd love to know what's your kind of biggest takeaway from these last 3 days? Is there anything that has made you think, or is there anything that you haven't heard about before, would like to try, or a different technique or a different style? Let me know. I'm just using the warm grey 6 just to add a little bit more darkness. Just these finishing touches now. There's darker up here. It's darker on this side than it is on the other, just that little triangle. And then it darkens up around the nostril. So it's all these kind of final little adjustments. There's a little line up there which helps with the curviness of it. Darkening up the bottom a little bit. You want to crispen up these lines slightly so that they do stand out as a shine. Just these tiny little adjustments. Now I'm starting to press a little bit harder just because I know there's not many layers now to add. We're nearly at the end. So I'm just darkening up that line a little bit. It comes all the way down to the bottom. Darkening up next to it. I think I could tinker forever. The other thing I want to add, just a little bit, I think you could probably keep going. I don't want to keep you all day. We've already been here over an hour. Because I said about the orange up there, sometimes it's nice just to add a little bit of that colour just to make it pop out a little bit. So just think about where the colour would be. I can kind of see it on the sides. Now, you might think that it looks more pink or more blue. It's completely up to you which colour you use. I'm using this burnt ochre because it's just a nice neutral colour. It just ties everything in, and you might find that it just makes your drawings pop a little bit more. So going over the top, really, really light hands. So you're just glazing over and adding a touch of colour. You can also add a little bit of blue that we've used in the fur as well. Either the bluish turquoise. I think this gives a really good shine. And I think there are, I'm noticing things more and more, you just, that didn't even show up, just these little things. So I think what I would do now is I would add in the rest of the muzzle, add in the rest of the dark nose, and then you might find that you need to adjust the nose even more. But this is a really good way to get the good shape in. You might need to adjust the shine a little bit so it's not as white as I've got it. It just fades in a little bit. You will find that the black will lessen a little bit, and so you'll need to top it up. I don't know if it sinks into the paper or it goes a bit muted. Another little trick for the black is that you can bring in another type of pencil like this Pablo and go over the top, because it's a little bit more matte than the polychromos, which is a bit more shiny, and so it might just show up a little bit more just to darken certain areas as well, just to get them a little bit darker. You can do that with the Caran d'Ache Luminance as well. That's a good black, but it's a very matte finish. So if most of your drawing is done with polychromos, it might show up a little bit too much if that's kind of a matte finish. I just want to zoom in so that you can see there's a shadow at the bottom. Let me lift that up. Can you see there's a little bit of texture there? And it's just about, again, building up the layers. And hopefully it all starts to, like, that shape just emerges. When I was drawing that, I wasn't thinking about a nose. I was just thinking about what colours were coming in. And then suddenly, when you start adding the black nostrils, it all starts to make sense. But as I said, this is probably about 90% done. Until you've got the rest of it, you won't be able to see how dark you need to go. So kind of get it to this level and then move on to the next bit. And hopefully it will all come together. I'm going to turn the camera around again to say goodbye. I'll just back off, you don't want me that close. I really hope you've enjoyed these last few days. I'm really going to miss it tomorrow, to be honest. I've been looking forward to it every day. It's been really nice to interact with you. As I said, what's your biggest takeaway? Let me know. I'd love to see in the comments now. If there's anything that you are going to be implementing, anything that you've tried over the last couple of days that you found to be great, that made your drawings pop or made them a bit better or softened the fur or gave it more depth. The glassy eye as well, building up the layers. I would really love to know. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully they are working. I don't know if they are. I don't know if they've stopped working. They haven't moved for a bit, so I don't know if you're all intently watching or even drawing your dogs. Oh yeah, Marilyn, see you tonight. Really enjoyed it. We'll try it later this month. Yeah, you've got other things going on. I do. I think sometimes you can have loads of little projects on the go and it can be a little bit overwhelming. I've got about 3 or 4 that I'm going to need to finish. Really enjoyed your session today. Oh, I hope you have. I hope you found it relaxing as well as kind of informative, because I'm all about the mindset and all about the reason that we do art, not just... I think I kind of want the reverse of what social media is at the moment. Although it's got so many amazing qualities, like today, we wouldn't be together if it wasn't for social media. But with anything that's great, there's always a bit of a flip side. And I think the pressure that we put on ourselves, and I'm guilty of this, and which is why I'm kind of banging on about it so much, because I know how damaging it can be. And I just want people to kind of take the pressure off, feel better, and to build their skills in a way that actually brings them joy and happiness, as opposed to frustration and competitive kind of ness and not feeling good enough and having those kind of negative feelings. I want you to have the good positive endorphins, the serotonin pumping around the system, the feel-good hormone that makes you much more resilient and much more able to cope with whatever life throws at us. To have a project that you can lose yourself in and concentrate on for 10 minutes to 10 hours, you know, it's one of those things that I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have my art. I just love it. And so building a community of people that feel the same, that can relate to that understand, is really, really important to me. Ingrid, give me a boost to get going again. Many thanks. My pleasure, Ingrid. Best of luck with your clematis. I post it in the group. I would love to see it. It would be amazing. It's been a hugely enjoyable course and I've learned a lot. My takeaway is to be slower. Fantastic. Oh, that warms my heart. More mindful. Don't panic. Don't panic. Yes. Trust the process. Have a German Shepherd pup, which I'll post when finished. Thanks, Sam and group. Definitely keep. What's the next bit? Oh, it blocks out the. Definitely keep in touch. Oh, brilliant. Well, yes, I hope so. You know, this artist community group has just been brilliant. I just love it so much. Great to have glassy eyes and nose explained properly. It's been great. Brilliant. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you have found it helpful. Just thinking about the next workshop. I'm always thinking about the next thing. What would you like to know more about? What would you like to be able to draw that you can't? Should we dive into a flower or botanicals or a small animal? Nothing too complicated, because I did a hummingbird recently and I think it freaked people out. I think it was just a little bit too much to tackle in an hour. It's not something I can do. It's something that kind of takes hours and hours and hours to explain, and it needs to be something a little bit more bite-sized that you can absorb it in a way that doesn't freak you out. Obviously I can only explain a certain amount within these workshops. And if you did want to, oh, flowers. Yeah, I think I do need to draw some more flowers. You've inspired me now, Ingrid, to draw some more flowers. Because I do think, you know, sometimes what would you want on your wall as well? Like, I draw lots of animals and I love animals, always have, but I don't know if I'd want animals all over my house. Maybe I would, I don't know. I like a few. I love drawing birds. I absolutely adore drawing birds. Something about feathers and their little beady eyes. And then that kind of leads into little animals. I'm doing a hedgehog in the membership at the moment. It's the last one today, so I'm uploading that when we finish. It's a 5-hour long tutorial, but I've broken it down into bite-sized chunks. I'm going to post it in the group. It's the most adorable reference photo of a hedgehog I have ever seen. The amazing Julie Hunt artist, she's on Instagram, she's in this group, is just a genius when it comes to photos. And so I'll post a picture of that and I'll show you what we've been doing in the membership for the last 5 weeks now. I'm posting every week to give people a little bit of a bite size in about an hour chunks, so similar to this workshop, so that it's not too overwhelming and it kind of gives you the incentive to keep going and have regular creative practice. A cat. Oh yes, cats are a bit different, aren't they? Something Christmassy. Yeah, my first ever workshop draw along was last December, and I did a robin and I did some holly. Holly's really difficult actually. And I did a watercolour Santa with reindeer. That's still in the group if you want to have a look at that. It's in the, if you type in the search, I think it was called Christmas Draw Along or Christmas Draw Together or Arty Christmas Projects, something like that. It's still in the group, so have a look. Maybe I'll do something like that again over a few days. Great ideas. Flowers be good next time. Oh, lots of flowers. And flowers are quite tricky. Yeah, don't let that put you off at all. But there's a lot to, yeah, that would be a really good one to do. It would be a lot, but not too much, if that makes sense. It would be a really good project to do. So, yeah, let me know. If you're watching on replay, please put your suggestions in the comments for the next workshop, what you'd want to look at, and then I will see which is the most popular. Please do post your work in the group if you want to post it in a post on its own. but put the hashtag Joy of Drawing 3, 2 for yesterday, 1 for the day before, just so that I can find it easily, because it just messes it all around with the order on Facebook, and then I'll be able to see it and I can enter you into the competition to win a monthly membership for the first prize and some goodies, art goodies, my favourite goodies for second prize. Please do like and love this video too, just to push it out to everyone else in the group. Please don't forget to do that. You can do it whilst I'm live here. I'd really, really be grateful for that, because you know, we've got 1,500 people in this group and only 200 I think see most posts. So the more you can interact with the posts that are in the group, the more people will see them, which is amazing. Just a few words about the membership. This is kind of what it's all about. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to carry on, if you want to continue kind of working with me and with the other amazing people that are in the group, we have weekly interactive sessions. I jump on live into the group. We have Hypnotherapy and Mindfulness, so talking all about the way that we can change negative thought patterns, behaviour, and move forward in a much more kind of balanced and just happier way, really. I practice solution-focused hypnotherapy, which is all about looking for the solutions, not necessarily dwelling on the issue or the problem. So we have a group hypnotherapy session. I give a discount in the membership for one-to-one sessions if you wanted to just work with me, if it was a little bit more personal and you wanted that kind of more support, that extra support. I'm also available on Messenger to message if you have an issue. I will always try and help, maybe do a little demonstration for you within the group. I've also got a library of tutorials that have been in there growing since December for you to get stuck into, all in bite-sized chunks, some amazing reference photos to work from, lots of different subjects, got flowers in there as well, the different pencils, and what else have we got? Got some Pilates videos in there. I teach Pilates, so neck and shoulder problems, if you want to, meditation and visualization, just to slow you down, calm you down, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I'm really looking forward to seeing the members on Zoom tonight to do a group hypnotherapy session. So it sounds like something you're interested in. Art and mindset, mindfulness, what a beautiful combination. They go so well together. You know, looking after your mind is just crucial, especially right now. Then click on the link, there's more information, or you can ask me any questions you want. Doors are only going to be open until Sunday, and then I'm going to close the doors again. They only open a few times a year, so please don't miss out on all of the great things that are going in. Also finished the Hedgehog, so it's your opportunity to choose what the next tutorial is going to be. So if you join now, you can do that as well. I'm going to say goodbye for now. I really don't want to go, actually. I've really enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful and informative. And I would love to see what you create, your little Dachshund dog, or if you're drawing something else. I would love to see it, so please do post it in the group. And please do stay in touch, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.